went into this part, because there is a calcification, there is a very calcified chronic occlusion, and no microcatheters could go in, no microcatheters except the Pronavi. And this is the Pronavi 19 that was pushed in, and the Pronavi succeed to go into this part, and then to the distal circ into the OM. And now I'm really happy to do that with this microcatheter. And after the crossing of the Pronavi, I do nothing more than go with a balloon. And we start with a small balloon, 1 millimeter, 10, and this balloon go in. After the crossing of the Pronavi, the balloon went in to the distal, and we start dilating the occluded tract, and I show you the crossing of the stent after the dilation also of the struts of the stent on left main LAD. So at this point, we do a stenting of the circ to OM, stenting of the proximal circ, and to conclude and to finish finalize the PCI, I need to put another stent from left main to circ, but I cannot put with the circuit, because if I do, I jail the retrograde wire and the retrograde microcatheter. So before stenting the left main to LAD, I pull back the RG3, I pull back the microcatheter, and from one guiding catheter I put a wire into the circ, from the other I put the wire into the LAD, and then I put the stent from LAD, from left main to circ, concluding the Q-lot of this procedure. So this is after recrossing of the wire, we do a kissing, and then a part of the left main, reaching this wonderful final results of the circ with no damage of the epicardial collateral after the crossing of almost 3 microcatheter. So what is my take-home message now at this point? You need to know that how to do, yes, it's really important, but the most important thing for me is to know the features of the materials, and particularly in the CTO, in the field of CTO, microcatheters and wires must be well known, because we need to use the best option, the best microcatheter, the best wire in the worst scenario. This is the most important thing for me, and this is what I would share with you. Thank you so much.
Smiling.
Very, very impressive.
Here's a big smile. You made her smiling. It's a big smile.
Yes, let's move to
It's good.
the discussion. Professor Şevket, can you join the discussion together with us?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, of course. Salvatore, from what I understand, he is an exceptional operator, from what I have seen. And I have similar experiences with this Pronavi microcatheter. One of the astonishing things is that it is very impressive that when we have pushable microcatheters in retrograd or in antegrad approach, we have the turnpike series, we have the turnpike spiral, we have the turnpike LP, we have the Corsair for excess and something like that. And when we cannot cross any, or when we cannot cross any kind of CTO, then we need something with a low profile microcatheter. Then our choice and the expert operators downsize their profile of their microcatheter, and that choice will always be Caravel. But from what I have seen here, Salvatore couldn't cross the septal collateral with the Caravel, but the Pronavi went through. I had the same experience. The important thing is that you cannot rotate caravel because it's breakable. It is not advisable to rotate, but sometimes I am doing that, but I feel safer when I use a Pronavi. You can rotate Pronavi to some extent. Even sometimes I take risks and rotate it even not much like a pushable coiled microcatheter, but in some extent I take risks and I do that. And when I do that, it's astonishing that I get through easily and solve the problem.
There is force, and this and the tip of the caravel is a little bit not so strong. So sometimes I have the break of the tip. Personally, I used in the septal crossing microcatheter that I could rotate because I need some pushing. I need to push them into some kind of tortuosity or bending. And if I have the wire in, I am confident to push also a braid, a catheter, or the one that I rotate, and to force sometimes the septal with no problem. As you can see, as I showed before, I push the Pronavi into this very thin septal of the right to LAD, and I have no problem in go with the Pronavi in. So I'm really happy to do that, and I feel more confident in using Pronavi, not only for septal, but also in many other complex PCI. But I'm really happy to hear your presentation on epicardial crossing, because I want to know how, and I want to improve my experience on that.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you another question. What kind of Pronavi did you use in your cases? I have only used the rounded profiles. I didn't use the tapered one. And I think the tapered one will be more efficient than the one that I have been using. What was it, a tapered one, like a 1.4?
Yeah. I prefer to use the tapered 1.9.
Okay, I didn't get one, so Ella, you should provide me with that one also. I need them.
Thank you for your comments. And
No
thank you,
problem.
Professor Salvatore. The answers, very. I also have a question to Dr. Salvatore. Is antegrade approach always the first and the retrograde the second? In your
no, it's not that. The algorithm suggests you to interrogate and to have an idea of which type of occlusion you have. Sometimes, if you have an ambiguous cap, we have a good collateral, and we have a very good distal vessel. You can start from retrograde. Why not? So it's not always the second choice, the retrograde approach. I personally am convinced that you need to do both when you have to do occlusion, because there is so few cases in which you use just a retrograde approach. In all the cases that I do a retrograde, normally I perform in 99% also an antegrade part of the occlusion, because just if I have an ostial occlusion of the right, for example, I need to go by retrograde, and I do 100% the retrograde CTO. But in all the other cases, you need to do the most part of a retrograde maybe, but you need to go even by antegrade in order to do the connection in some part of the coronary. So it's not true that antegrade is the first choice. There is so many cases in which you start retrograde and you complete the recanalization using later on the antegrade approach.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Okay. Is there any question from our audience? You can ask questions freely to our experts. Let's wait a moment to see. Is any questions from any more questions? Okay, I see.
I saw.
Hello, Professor Salvatore. We have a question from in our chat board. What kind of lesion will you choose microcatheter first? What kind of lesion? Can you answer it?
During CTO, I always use a microcatheter. You cannot do a CTO without a microcatheter. It's I never used a balloon. I know that some colleagues of us use OTV balloon to perform the antegrade track of a CTO. I lived this experience many years ago, and I start using always, in all cases, microcatheter. I use very often microcatheters also in very complex PCI. So microcatheters are really important. We have many microcatheters in our cath lab because there is very different types of microcatheters. So there is someone that you use almost in all the cases, but there is someone that you use particularly for this subset of lesions. So very often I use microcatheter, and during CTO, 100%.
Okay, thank you. So microcatheter is very essential tool in complex PCI. Okay, maybe we will go to the next part. I
just go with my presentation.
Sorry.
And share my screen. No problem. It happens if you're online.
Yeah, wait a moment, please.
And I'm a bit anxious that my internet connection goes away, so I want to do my presentation as soon as possible.
Okay. Next speaker, Professor Şevket Görgülü.
So before I begin with my speech, I would like to thank BrosMed for including me to this event. I have been trying Pronavi for over the last 6 months, so I'm very positive regarding this new microcatheter. I have used all microcatheters, almost all microcatheters on the market, both antegrade in an antegrade manner and retrograde manner. There is one point which is advantageous for this microcatheter. I will mention later during my talk. So I have to skip this. Just okay. So turnpike spiral, turnpike bolt, tornus are only for antegrade usage with maximum pushability features. Of course, I used also Pronavi for antegrade purposes many times. However, our topic is retrograde, and I want to share with you my experience regarding this Pronavi new microcatheter. Mostly we prefer septal collaterals for retrograde passage because of safety reasons. When you use septal collaterals in retrograde approach, then you need, in most cases, trackability rather than pushability, which means low profile braided microcatheters. Sometimes you may encounter difficulties with coil channel dilators such as MambaFlex, Corsair Pro XS, Corsair Pro, Turnpike LP. Then you switch to a braided low profile micro like Caravel or Fine Cross. And Salvatore has shown us even Caravel didn't work. So the Pronavi is such a low profile micro, one can choose in very tortuous septal collaterals if you encounter a problem with channel dilators. So I am not going to be a boring guy, so I'm going to introduce you my case. So this is an RCA ostial CTO with problematic antegrad guiding catheter engagement. You can see here how easily the antegrad guiding catheter is disengaged. It is a clear indication, at least for me, that a retrograde approach is needed. You see here the interventional collaterals. These seems to be very juicy septal collaterals. And on the right panel, you can see that this slippery Pronavi 150 is coming and engaging this septal collateral nicely. Trying to understand the anatomy. Here we have done a contrast injection. No problem during the contrast injection. It provides good contrast to the septals. And then here is the Pronavi and here is the scion wire. The scion wire nicely crosses this septal and it has landed in the posterior lateral artery of the RCA. So even with weak support of the guiding, you see the guiding catheter is engaging from the left main ostium. However, we were able to push this microcatheter across the collateral and dip tip injection here. You see we are on the right path and we are in the PDA here, and we cross the lesion easily. So we are trying to reach the distal cap. This is again the scion wire, and the scion wire is now going here into the distal cap, and you see our antegrad guiding catheter is disengaged. So we needed a retrograde approach somehow, and a tip injection from the Pronavi 150 again to understand the distal cap of the anatomy. So the trackability is good. You can give contrast, and the microcatheter has the features that I look for from a microcatheter. So then antegrade vessel preparation is usually needed in retrograde approach. We try to stabilize the RCA guiding with the fine cross. This is the fine cross and a Gaia 3 to anchor somewhere. But during that process, we were lucky that this Gaia 3 went into the true lumen. But we retrieved the Pronavi a bit and made it, but lack of support and a lot of calcification, this fine cross couldn't go down the artery. And you see, this is the confirmation that we followed the course of the collateral. This is the confirmation that our Gaia 3 is in the Pronavi. This is a fine cross. This is the Gaia 3. This is the Pronavi. And this Pronavi, we couldn't go upwards with this Pronavi into the RCA, into the proximal RCA, because of both ends were weak. So that was the reason why we couldn't go up this artery. And a small profile balloon, we could do that here. A small profile balloon was not crossable antegradly, but it was possible again. This is the gladius. With gladius, we went first into the aorta here, you will see, and we are in the aorta, and then with this gladius wire, we went into the guiding catheter. Retrograde. The gladius was pinned with a trap balloon here, and then you see here this Pronavi microcatheter. The Pronavi microcatheter here, it jumped. You see, it jumped. So I pinned this with a trapping balloon, gladius, and it will jump here. And it jumped and moved the Gaia 3. So if you have good support, then this microcatheter, you can do everything, even with calcified lesions. So now we are almost there here at the proximal part of the guiding catheter. Then we went into the guiding catheter, this RCUC. This is the Pronavi again. It followed the wire, and here is our trapping balloon. And then we retrieved the gladius. The gladius wire is retrieved here, and an externalization was done with, you see the gladius out, and the externalization was done with an R350 centimeter long externalization wire. The wire was externalized from the opposite access side. The rest, all you know. First, ballooning, you see here. After ballooning, we did IVUS. And the IVUS showed us a 3.5 proximal luminal diameter of the proximal RCA. So we went with the 3.0 stent at the distal part, and the rest was done with 2.5 and 4.0 balloon post dilation. And you see, here is the end result. No branch loss, and this part has negative remodeling detected by IVUS. So this part will grow, and we have edge dissection, dissection, but this is also benign according to the IVUS. And we retrieved very easily the R350 and the Pronavi, you see, and here is the end result of our case. This will grow in the future. So we have our exhausted Pronavi here lying on the table after drawing this beautiful heart shape of my patient. You see here, I have to add this one here. You see, this is the nice shape of the heart, which did Pronavi. So I have to say something about the features of the Pronavi. Just let this go away. So I am now better. And there are two tip designs from a construction point of view. I was able to use the two Pronavi microcatheters which are not tapered. You see this one, I have the chance to use this one and the other one, and Dennis assured me that he will be provided with the lobe, with the tapered profile microcatheter. I will be happy to use them also. Taking into account the design and construction, there are 4 microcatheters available apart from Pronavi. We should compare, we can compare. And these microcatheters, they are not for rotation and they are kink resistant. One advances them in a linear direction by applying constant pressure. One should not rotate caravel, it's breakable. I have break a lot of caravels. In contrast, you can rotate Pronavi to some degree to increase pushability. Tip profiles and anti-profiles are somewhat similar. I don't have any benchmark tests comparing all these 4 braided tube microcatheters, but I can say, if it is a say in my experience, Pronavi definitely works. So when it comes to epicardial collaterals, my preference switches between micros with inner coils, like Corsair Pro XS, Mamba Flex, Turnpike LP, or micros with braids, like Caravel. There is one important issue with the epicardial collaterals, because they are very tortuous and long. The microcatheters fell short and may not reach the Antegrad guide, as Salvatore has shown us in his epicardial retrograd case. We have recently published an article indicating radial approach is better in terms of access site complications. Galassi has written an editorial about our article on the same issue. Most expert operators use the radial approach in CTO PCI as the default access site, and in my approach, radial approach is also my default access site. In our era, people are getting bigger in terms of body mass index and with longer arms. The guiding catheter is usually shortened in epicardial collateral passages to gain extra length in favor of the microcatheter. If you do that with radial approach and go to distal radial approach even, your guiding catheter may not reach the ostium of the target artery. If you don't shorten the guide, then your micro will fall short. I have seen expert operators during live cases calling out for companies that they should manufacture longer microcatheters. In this regard, the Pronavi 162 centimeter long micro is unique with its length. So this is my second and last case. Left distal radial approach, big guy, we shortened the guiding catheter and couldn't reach out to the left vein, so we proceeded without guiding shortening. This is a diagonal CTO, ambiguous cap, diagonal saphen is occluded, and the only option is this epicardial, this long, tortuous epicardial from the distal LAD. So first integrating the collateral tortuosity by contrast injection. This is a Pronavi 162. And at that time, I was very happy that we had that on the shelf. And this is the contrast injection. And you see how bad our support here is, the disengagement of the guiding catheter. And even the wire was not able to go because we have here bad support. So the disengagement was obvious. We anchored, this is an anchor balloon on the CX, and with this side, with this branch anchoring, we were able to go with this Samurai RC into the distal cap of the you see, this is a real-time passage, and now with this anchor we were more safe and we were able to reach the distal cap of the CTO, of the diagonal CTO. But then comes the issue with the tracking. You see how nicely this Pronavi 162, even it's long, if the microcatheter goes longer, then the pushability decreases. So, but in this regard, I had no trouble. And you see here, the microcatheter went very slowly but surely at the very end of this collateral and at the distal cap. So this was very hard for us. This is a pilot 200. Now we are at the distal cap, and this wire goes into the saphenous graft. You see, it's going prolapsing in the saphenous graft. So we made a dissection before the anastomosis and drive the Pronavi into the supraintimal space. You see now the wire will buckle. Yes, now we are in the architecture of the diagonal, and then you see how this micro will follow and enter the distal cap even into the supraintimal space here, even into the architecture. So here comes again, this is the Pronavi, and this is the gladius this time, and this is calcification. This is not a stent, and we crossed the distal cap, and now we are in the CTO, and we were able to cross with this gladius into the aorta. But the problem here is, even this long 132 centimeter long Pronavi microcatheter couldn't reach this ostium. We have length issues. Was this? Come on, 22. Yeah. We first got with this gladius into the retrograde guiding catheter, you will see coming. And then you see here, and then made a tip-in. This is another microcatheter. We made a tip-in into the microcatheter and then pushed this microcatheter over this gladius wire and close this gap between this microcatheter and Pronavi. You see, it will come. It's coming. The microcatheter is coming. It will come. It takes time because we have a lot of calcification here. You see now we switched the system from retrograde to antegrade, and the rest, you know, I won't bother you with following and standing. You see, this is the diagonal we were after for, and you see from a different point of view, this is the diagonal. We stanted also the left main, and we made here bifurcation intervention, and this is how we managed this case, thanks to this long Pronavi 162. And briefly, I can conclude that in septal collaterals, Pronavi can be a good choice when high-profile channel dilators can't cross. Usually, in Europe, what I have seen in Europe and in other parts, expert operators switch to a caravel. But from my experience, I have used caravel a lot. Pronavi is a good alternative to caravel in that sense. And Salvatore has shown us that the caravel didn't work and Pronavi get cut easily. And in epicardial collaterals, Pronavi is unique. Epicardial collaterals, and if you use the radial approach, you need longer microcatheters. And in that sense, Pronavi is unique with its 162 centimeter length. So thank you for your attention. And I hope I made also Ella smiling.
Thank
So
you, Professor Şevket. Thank you for your very dedicated presentation. I guess maybe Professor Salvatore will have some comments.
He is gone, I think.
Yeah.
He is offline.
Thank you for your presentation on case sharings of Pronavi in retrograde passage of epicardial collaterals. It's very insightful.
Yeah, Ella, what I see is I'm always talking for 162 centimeter length. Okay, so 150, we have a lot of microcatheters with 150. We have kind of 150, but 162 is unique. When I use a retrograde approach, I want to see the 162 in my cath lab. So I want this should be, I think, a strengthening point of Pronavi, and 162 should be promoted, I think, and we need more experience because the pushability is not bad, but with 150 and 162, I have to do more cases, and I have to experience whether there is any kind of difference. But I will always prefer 162 if it is available, even in septal collaterals, because I'm doing radial. And if you are doing radial, and nowadays expert operators are doing distal radial, which means that you need longer microcatheters. Patients are getting bigger and bigger, and we need longer microcatheters. So 162 in that sense is unique, and I want to use them in septal and epicardial collaterals for my first choice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. May I ask when will you consider the epicardial collaterals instead of septal collaterals? You just mentioned the two kinds of retrograde passage. I'm not know the difference.
So septal collaterals are safe, and there is an algorithm about that. If you have a bypass graft, you should use first the bypass graft for retrograde approach, and if it's not available, then you use the septal approach. And if you are desperate and you don't have any other choice, then you go to the epicardial, because epicardial collaterals are dangerous, and if there happens a perforation, it can be fatal. So we avoid using epicardial collaterals, but it's also only used for expert operators. And if you use it, you should be prepared for any kind of complication like rupture. So epicardial collaterals are the last choice. And if you are desperate and if you don't have any other choice, then there is the collateral that you can go for.
Oh, it's more challenging for
it's dangerous. It's dangerous and challenging, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. May I ask, is there any more questions from our audience? You can ask freely to our experts.
Excuse me, I have a question for Dr. Şevket. My name is Mustafa and I'm from Egypt. My question is, are the key performance requirements for microcatheters different for Antegrad and the Retrograd approach, like the features of pushability, trackingability, and tape profile, for example?
So it depends what your purpose is. Sometimes if you see a calcified target artery, you go retrograde, okay? Then you need some kind of pushability, and pushability means torque transmission. Torque transmission means coiled microcatheters like Corsair, Mamba Flex, Corsair Pro XS. But the problem comes with this. These microcatheters are high-profile microcatheters, and you may encounter difficulties even in your wire goes through, but your microcatheters goes not through the collateral. Then you switch to low-profile braided microcatheters, and mostly most expert operators switches to Caraval, but I switch to Pronavi nowadays. So if you get through the lesion, then maybe your channel is dilated, and you maybe again need to switch to a more robust, high-profile coiled microcatheter. So then you use the microcatheter only for the septal passage, and in the target artery, you need to cross the CTO, and for crossing the CTO, then you may need some kind of a braided, a pushable, a coiled microcatheter. But even in calcifications, if you have a good support, there are some advantages with this braided microcatheter. You can cross between the collaterals, it's hydrophilic, and you can even squeeze the microcatheter and goes through the calcification also. That's also a chance. But if you want to modify the distal cap, and if you want to go aggressive, and if you have good support, then you may switch again to a more torqueable microcatheter. It depends what happens during the procedure of the retrograde approach. In Antegrad, you can use either one. If you have a CTO, for example, sometimes you see calcification, okay, in the coronary artery. And then maybe you will begin with the more torqueable, more pushable microcatheter like Turnpike Spiral or Corsair Pro or Mamba Flex or Teleport, like that. And it's up to the point what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve a septal or epicardial collateral, or you want to cross to a CTO, your wire is across the CTO, and you want to modify the lesion, then even you go with the Tornus or the Turnpike cord. It's definitely depends on what you want to achieve.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Şevket. Thank you for your comments. It's
Are we
very
done?
clear. Yeah, I guess there any more questions? Okay. Thank you. So let's move to the next part. Thanks for all the experts. Thank you for today's wonderful presentations and comments. It's really helpful to us with many insights and tricks on complex PCI. So let me sum up today's webinar with an old Chinese saying that a workman must first sharpen his tools if he is to do his work well. Pronavi is such kind of good tool for complex PCI. we will continue to work hard to bring in tools for excellence. Okay. So for more product information, you can search BrosMed website or contact us via email sales@brosmed.com. So see you next time. See you next time. Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.
Professor
Bye.
Şevket. Thank you for joining us today. It's very, very impressive.
Thank you. It's an honor for me.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor for me to be part of this new journey. So we have to work a lot.
Wonderful sharings.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
那就把凳子，
拜拜，韦德。Thank you。
凳子也不够，
你们在 BV 办公室吗？